Captain Taewoo stared at the scanner readings for the third time. The numbers remained the same, but they made no sense. Something massive was hiding in the asteroid field ahead, something much larger than any rock formation should be. "So Young, check the sensors again," he called to his engineer. "This reading can't be right." So Young looked up from her console, pushing a strand of black hair from her eyes. She had been working on the salvage ship Persistence for 2 years now, and she knew every beep and signal the old vessel could make. "The sensors are working fine, Captain. There's definitely something big out there, really big." The Persistence was not much to look at. It was a small mining and salvage vessel, barely 60 meters long. Its hull showed scars from countless operations in dangerous space. But it was reliable, and it kept Taewoo and his small crew fed. They made their living finding valuable scrap in old battlefields and abandoned stations. Today they were investigating reports of wreckage from an ancient battle. The coordinates had cost Taewoo most of his savings, bought from a drunk trader in a dingy space bar. The trader claimed it was from the Great Purge, a war that happened 200 years ago. Most people thought those old battlefields had been picked clean long ago. "Distance to the anomaly?" Taewoo asked. 20,000 kilometers and closing, replied Jin-Ho, their navigator. He was the youngest crew member, barely 25, but he had good instincts for finding hidden things in space. "Whatever it is, it's not moving." Taewoo made his decision. "Take us in slowly, keep the shields up and weapons ready." As they got closer, the mystery object began to take shape on their screens. It was not an asteroid. It was not space junk. It was a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a hill. "By all the stars," So Young whispered. "Look at the size of that thing." The vessel stretched across their view screen like a metal city floating in space. It was 15 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. The hull was dark gray, almost black, with no lights showing anywhere. Massive gun turrets lined its sides, each one bigger than their entire ship. Launch bays gaped open like hungry mouths. Along its length, "Is it human?" Jin-Ho asked, his voice shaky. Taewoo studied the design. The lines were familiar, but the scale was impossible. Modern human ships were measured in hundreds of meters, not kilometers. The biggest coalition vessels were maybe 2 kilometers long. This monster dwarfed anything he had ever seen. "Run a database search," he ordered. "Check military records?" "From before the Purge." So Young's fingers flew over her keyboard. After several minutes, she stopped and stared at her screen. "Captain, I think I've found something. Computer says this matches the design of the UES Indomitable, but that's impossible." "Why? Is it impossible?" "Because the Indomitable was destroyed in the last battle of the Great Purge. Everyone knows that story. Admiral Jaehyun stayed behind with his ship to cover the evacuation of Earth. The coalition forces overwhelmed them. Nothing could have survived that battle." Taewoo looked at the massive ship floating silent and dark before them. "Well, something did survive. Question is, what's left inside?" They moved closer, scanning every section of the huge vessel. The hull showed damage from weapons fire, but it was old damage, scarred over and sealed. Whatever had happened here was long finished. "I'm picking up a faint power signature," So Young reported, excitement creeping into her voice. "Very faint. But it's there. Something inside is still working." "Life support? Maybe. The readings are too weak to tell for sure." Taewoo faced a choice. Standard procedure said they should report the find to the authorities and wait for a proper salvage. "Crew, the Coalition maintained strict rules about recovering military vessels, especially human ones. They did not like people poking around old Earth warships, but those same authorities would pay them a tiny finder's fee and take everything valuable. This ship, if it really was the Indomitable, would be the discovery of a lifetime. The historical value alone would be enormous." "Captain," Jin-Ho said quietly, "if we report this, we'll never see it again. The Coalition will seal it up or haul it away to some secret facility." So Young nodded. He's right. They don't like reminders of how powerful Earth used to be. This ship represents everything they tried to make people forget. Taewoo knew they were right. For 200 years, humanity had lived under coalition protection. They were safe, fed, and housed. But they were also controlled. Humans could not build large warships. They could not explore beyond assigned borders. They could not even study their own military history without coalition approval. Prep the boarding pod, he decided. We're going to take a look inside. Captain, that could be dangerous, So Young warned. We don't know what systems might still be active. And if the coalition finds out, we'll deal with that later. Right now, I want to know what's in there. They suited up in their environmental gear and loaded into the small boarding pod attached to the Persistence. The pod could carry 4 people and enough air for 6 hours. It had basic cutting tools and medical supplies. The pod crossed the empty space between ships in minutes. Up close, the Indomitable was even more impressive. The armor plating was meters thick. Weapon ports dotted the hull like deadly stars. Everything about the ship spoke of raw power and military might. They found an airlock that appeared intact and managed to cycle it open. The pod sealed against the outer door with a soft thump. Tae-woo checked his air gauge and weapon before stepping through. The corridor beyond was dark but clean. Emergency lighting flickered on as they entered, triggered by motion sensors that still worked after 2 centuries. The air was thin but breathable. Gravity plates in the floor provided Earth-normal weight. This is incredible, So Young breathed. The ship is in perfect condition. It's like everyone just walked away yesterday. They moved deeper into the vessel, following signs toward the bridge. The corridors were wide enough for 20 people to walk side by side. Everything was built on a massive scale, from the doors to the ceiling height. The builders had not been concerned about saving space or materials. Look at this, Jinho called out. He was standing before a wall display showing ship schematics. According to this, the ship has 10 fighter squadrons, orbital bombardment, cannons, and something called quantum shielding. I've never heard of half this equipment. They reached a section marked as medical. Through transparent doors, they could see rows of cylindrical chambers. Each chamber was filled with a blue liquid, and inside each one was a human figure. Cryogenic pods, Tae-woo realized. There are people in there, hundreds of them. So Young ran her scanner over the nearest pod. They're alive, Captain. Suspended animation, but all systems show green. They've been sleeping for 200 years. They moved through section after section, finding more pods everywhere. The ship's entire crew was here, perfectly preserved and waiting. In the officers' quarters, they found a pod different from the others. It was larger and showed more complex readings. A nameplate on the front read, Admiral J. Hyun, Commanding Officer, UES Indomitable. Should we wake him? Jinho asked. Tae-woo stared at the sleeping figure inside the pod. This man was a legend, someone from the history books. He had commanded the greatest warship ever built by human hands. He had held off an entire coalition fleet to save millions of lives. Yes, Tae-woo said finally. I think it's time Admiral Jae-hyun woke up. The cryogenic pod hissed as it began its wake-up sequence. Blue liquid drained away slowly, revealing the sleeping form of Admiral Jae-hyun. Tae-woo watched nervously as the revival process continued. They had found the emergency wake-up procedures in the ship's computer, but none of them were medical experts. His vital signs are getting stronger, So Young reported, reading from a nearby monitor. Heart rate is climbing to normal levels. Brain activity is increasing. After 20 minutes, the Admiral's eyes opened. He blinked several times, confusion clear on his face. When he tried to speak, only a weak cough came out. His throat was dry from 2 centuries of sleep. Water, he managed to whisper. Jinho quickly brought a cup from their supplies. The Admiral drank slowly, his strength returning with each sip. He looked around at the 3 strangers in their salvage gear. Who are you? He asked, his voice getting stronger. What happened to my crew? How long was I asleep? Tae-woo stepped forward. I'm Captain Tae-woo of the salvage vessel Persistence. This is my engineers So Young and navigator Jinho. We found your ship drifting in space. As for How long you've been asleep, ... He paused, not sure how to break the news gently. Admiral, the year is 2387. You've been in cryogenic sleep for 200 years. The Admiral's face went pale. He sat up slowly, his hand gripping the edge of the pod. 200 years? The evacuation ... Did Earth survive? What happened after the battle? Earth survived, Taewoo said carefully. But things are very different now. Humanity lives under coalition protection. We have colonies on many worlds, but we're not allowed to build ships like this anymore. The coalition controls our military and expansion. Admiral Jae-hyen's expression darkened. Protection? You mean control? They did exactly what I feared they would do. He stood up, still weak but determined. Help me to the bridge. I need to see the current state of my ship. They made their way through the corridors, the Admiral leaning on Taewoo for support. As they walked, Jae-hyen asked question after question about the current state of humanity. Each answer seemed to make him more angry. No human ships larger than cruiser class? No military research? No expansion beyond assigned sectors? He shook his head. They turned us into pets. The bridge of the Indomitable was enormous. Command stations were arranged in 3 levels, with the captain's chair at the center. Massive view screens covered the forward wall. Everything was still. Functional, waiting for its crew to return, Admiral Jae-hyen settled into his command chair and began activating systems. Lights came on across the bridge. Computer displays flickered to life. The ship was waking up along with its commander. "Computer, status report," he ordered. A calm female voice responded immediately. Admiral Jae-hyen confirmed. "Ship status, all primary systems operational. Crew status, 4,847 personnel in cryogenic suspension. Fuel status, 67%. Ammunition status, 89%. Time since last activation, 201 years, 7 months, 12 days. Any damage to critical systems? Negative. All damage has been sealed by automatic repair systems. Hull integrity is at 94%. The Admiral turned to his guests. "This ship was designed to operate independently for decades. We have manufacturing bays that can build everything from fighters to full-sized cruisers. We have enough supplies to support a small fleet." So Young was studying one of the engineering displays. "Admiral, some of this technology, I've never seen anything like it." "What is quantum shielding?" "Something the Coalition banned after the war," he replied grimly. "They made sure humanity could never build these systems again. Too dangerous to their control." A new voice interrupted them. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual activity in Medical Bay 7. They rushed to the medical section and found a woman in her 40s emerging from one of the pods. She wore the uniform of a senior medical officer and moved with practiced efficiency despite just waking up. "Admiral," she said, snapping to attention. "Chief Medical Officer Hyjin reporting for duty. I programmed my pod to wake me if yours was activated." "Doctor, what's our crew status?" "All personnel are in perfect health. The cryogenic systems worked flawlessly. I can begin revival procedures immediately if needed." More pods began opening. As other senior officers' automatic wake-up programs activated, Chief Engineer Dong-soo emerged from his pod, followed by Communications Officer Minho. Each of them looked confused until they saw their admiral. "Sir," Dong-soo said after being briefed on the situation, "I need to check our manufacturing capabilities. If we're going to operate in this new galaxy, we'll need to understand what resources we have." "Do it," the Admiral ordered. "Doctor, begin waking the essential crew. Start with department heads and senior technicians. Minho, I need you to scan all communication frequencies. I want to know what's happening in local space." As the officers dispersed to their duties, Taewoo felt increasingly out of place. These people moved with military precision and confidence. They belonged on this ship in a way he never could. "Admiral," he said, "we should probably return to our ship." "This is your vessel, not ours?" "Not yet, Captain. You found us and you woke us up. That makes you part of this whether you like it or not. Jae-hyun looked at him seriously. Besides, I need to understand exactly what humanity has become. Your ship and crew are my window into this new world. Min-ho called out from his station. Admiral, I'm picking up multiple contacts approaching our position. Coalition ships, moving fast. 12 vessels, cruiser and destroyer class. How far out? 6 hours at their current speed. The Admiral's jaw tightened. They detected our power-up. Computer, go to yellow alert. Begin defensive preparations. Warning lights began flashing throughout the ship. The computer's voice echoed in the corridors, alerting the skeleton crew to prepare for possible combat. Admiral, Tae-woo said urgently, you can't fight the Coalition. They have hundreds of ships. Starting a battle will only make things worse. For all humanity, you think I should surrender my ship to them? I think you should consider what's best for your people. And mine. Jae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. Dong-soo, how long to bring all weapons online? 4 hours, sir. Hyjin, how many crew can you have ready for action? Essential positions can be filled in 3 hours. Do it. He looked back at Tae-woo. Captain, I understand your concern. But there's something you need to understand about the Coalition. They don't negotiate with equals. They only respect strength. If I surrender this ship, they'll make sure nothing like it ever exists again. And if you fight them, then humanity gets a choice. They can remain safe pets, or they can remember what it means to be free. Engineer Dong-soo's voice came over. The communications system. Admiral, you need to see this. I'm in manufacturing Bay 12. We have full production capability for advanced fighters, and the designs in the computer ... Sir, they're 50 years ahead of anything the Coalition currently uses. Show me, the Admiral ordered. They made their way to the manufacturing section, where massive automated systems stretched as far as they could see. Holographic displays showed ship designs that looked impossibly advanced. These fighters are equipped with quantum drives, Dong-soo explained. They can move faster than anything in the Coalition fleet. The weapon systems use focused plasma that can punch through any known armor. How many can we build, with current resources? Maybe 60 fighters in the next 4 hours. Admiral Jae-hyun smiled for the first time since waking up. Then we, give the Coalition a demonstration they won't forget. Tae-woo felt a chill run down his spine. The galaxy was about to change, and he wasn't sure if it would be for the better. The Coalition fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where Min-ho had predicted. 12 ships arranged themselves in a threatening formation around the massive human carrier. Their hulls gleamed with the blue and silver colors of Coalition authority. Incoming transmission, Min-ho announced from his communications station. Put it on screen, Admiral Jae-hyun ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made Tae-woo step backward in surprise. The Coalition commander had 4 arms, compound eyes like an insect, and mandibles that clicked when it spoke. Its voice came through the translator as cold and mechanical. I am Admiral Zefuk of the Coalition 3rd Inspection Fleet. You are operating an illegal military vessel in violation of Treaty 2387 Alpha. Power down all systems and prepare for boarding. Admiral Jae-hyun stood slowly from his command chair. Even after 2 centuries of sleep, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never backed down from a fight. I am Admiral Jae-hyun, commanding officer of the Earth vessel Indomitable. This ship operates under pre-treaty sovereignty laws that remain in effect. Zefuk's mandibles clicked faster, a sign of irritation. No such laws exist. All human military vessels were surrendered or destroyed following the Great Purge. You will comply immediately or face destruction. Try it, Jae-hyun said simply, the transmission cut off. On the tactical display, the Coalition ships began moving into attack positions. Their weapons were charging, and fighter squadrons were launching from the larger vessels. Sir, called out Weapons Officer Kyung-soo, who had just been revived and rushed to his station, they're targeting our engines and weapon systems, classic disable and capture formation. Show them what our shields can do, the Admiral ordered. Kyung-soo's hands moved across his console with practiced skill, quantum shielding at full power. A shimmer appeared around the Indomitable, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The Coalition ships immediately began intensive scanning, but their sensors couldn't penetrate the barrier. "They're confused," Minho reported with satisfaction. "Their scans are showing nothing but empty space where we should be." "Let them wonder for a moment," Jae-hyun said. "Dong-soo, status on our fighters?" The chief engineer's voice came over the intercom. "First squadron ready for launch. Pilots are suiting up now." Tae-woo watched the proceedings with growing worry. He understood that the Admiral felt he had no choice, but this could start a war that would hurt every human colony in the galaxy. "Admiral," he said quietly, "there might be another way. These Coalition commanders, they're used to dealing with weak human ships. Maybe if you just showed them your power without actually fighting, What do you suggest? Disable a few ships without destroying them. Show them you could have killed them all but chose not to. It might make them think twice." Jae-hyun considered this. "Kyung-soo, can you target their engines precisely? Disable without destroying?" "Yes, sir. Our targeting systems are far more advanced than anything they have." The Coalition ships opened fire first. Dozens of energy beams struck the Indomitables. Shields and simply vanished, absorbed by the quantum barrier. The massive human ship didn't even shake from the impact. "Return fire," Admiral Jae-hyun ordered. "Disable 3 ships. Show them what precision looks like." 3 beams of brilliant white light shot out from the carrier's main guns. Each beam lasted only a second, but when they faded, 3 Coalition cruisers were drifting helplessly. Their engines were completely destroyed, but their crews were unharmed. The remaining Coalition ships stopped firing, clearly shocked by what they had witnessed. "Launch fighters," the Admiral continued. "Squadron Leader Yun-soo, show them how real pilots fly." The launch bay doors opened, and 20 sleek human fighters streaked out into space. They were beautiful machines, all smooth curves and advanced technology. Each one was barely 20 meters long, but packed with more firepower than most Coalition destroyers. Squadron Leader Yun-soo's voice came over the radio, calm and professional. "Fighter Squadron Alpha launching. All pilots report ready for combat." The Coalition had launched their own fighters, older and bulkier designs that relied on heavy armor instead of speed. There were 60 of them against 20 human craft. But the numbers didn't matter. The human fighters moved like dancers through space. They twisted and spun around the Coalition attacks, their quantum drives allowing impossible maneuvers. Within minutes, half the Coalition fighters were disabled, their weapon systems destroyed by precise shots. "Enough," came a new transmission from the Coalition fleet. This time it was Admiral Zefak himself, and his voice carried much less confidence than before. We request permission to withdraw." "Permission denied," Admiral Jae-hyun replied. "You came here to inspect my ship. So inspect it. Send over a boarding party. But understand that you do so as my guests, not as conquerors." There was a long pause. Finally, Zefak responded. "We will send a small diplomatic party. Acceptable. 1 shuttle, 4 individuals maximum. Any weapons will be confiscated at the airlock." As they waited for the Coalition diplomats to arrive, Dr. Haijin approached the Admiral. "Sir, I've been monitoring Coalition communications. They're requesting reinforcements and reporting a first contact situation with unknown technology." "Unknown technology?" Jae-hyun smiled grimly. "This is all human technology, 200 years old. They've just forgotten what we're capable of when we're not restricted by their treaties." The Coalition shuttle docked with the Indomitable 20 minutes later. Admiral Zefak came aboard with 3 other Coalition officers representing different alien species. Tae-woo noticed how small they looked in the massive corridors of the human ship. They met in the main conference room, a space large enough to hold 50 people. The Coalition delegates sat on one side of a polished metal table, while Admiral Jae-hyun sat across from them with his senior staff. "Your ship should not exist," Zefak stated bluntly. All records show it was destroyed. Many things that should not exist still do, the Admiral replied. The question is what you plan to do about it. The Coalition Council will demand answers. They will want to inspect your technology and ensure it complies with current treaties. The Coalition Council can demand whatever it likes. But this ship was built before your treaties existed, and I was never a signatory to your agreements. I am under no obligation to comply with laws I never agreed to follow. One of the other coalition officers, a tall being with blue skin and large eyes, leaned forward. Admiral, you must understand the situation. If human technology proves superior to coalition standards, it could destabilize the entire galactic order. Maybe the galactic order needs destabilizing, Jaehyun said quietly. The room fell silent. Even Tae-woo could feel the weight of those words. For 200 years, the coalition had maintained peace through control. The idea that someone might challenge that control was terrifying to them. What do you want? Zifek asked finally. I want my people to be free. Free to build ships like this one, free to explore where they choose, free to defend themselves without asking permission. Impossible. The other species would never accept human military superiority. Then maybe it's time they learn to accept it anyway? Admiral Zifek stood abruptly. You are making a mistake, Admiral. The Coalition has thousands of ships. Your vessel is impressive, but it is only one ship. You're right, Jaehyun agreed. It is only one ship, but it's a ship that can build other ships, and those ships will be crewed by humans who remember what freedom feels like. The Coalition delegation left without another word. As their shuttle departed, Admiral Jaehyun turned to his crew. Recall all fighters. Set course for the nearest human colony. It's time to remind our people who they used to be. The Coalition High Council chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from 12 different alien species argued loudly about what to do with the human supercarrier. Admiral Zifek stood at the center of the circular room, his arms spread wide as he tried to explain what had happened. The human ship is beyond anything in our current fleet, he reported, his mandibles clicking nervously. Their shields stopped our weapons completely. Their fighters destroyed half our squadron without taking a single loss. Most disturbing of all, they showed perfect precision in their attacks. They could have destroyed us all, but chose not to. The Delari representative, a tall aquatic being with gill slits along her neck, leaned forward in her water-filled chair. How is this possible? All human military technology was catalogued and restricted after the Great Purge. Nothing like this should exist. The ship predates the restrictions, Zifek explained. Their admiral claims it operates under pre-treaty laws. Technically, he may be correct. A chorus of outraged voices filled the chamber. The Vextai Queen Mother, largest of the insect-like beings, raised her clawed hands for silence. Technicalities do not matter. This ship threatens everything we have built. If humans can produce such vessels, other species will demand the same freedoms. The Korath delegate, a reptilian creature with scarred hide, spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. Perhaps the humans have a point. The coalition has grown soft, comfortable with control rather than strength. Maybe we need to remember what real power looks like. Traitor, hissed the Delari representative. The coalition maintains peace through careful balance. If humans can build whatever they wish, that balance is destroyed. The argument continued for hours. Finally, the council reached a decision. They would make an example of the human ship and its crew. No one could be allowed to challenge coalition authority and survive. Deploy the Third Fleet, ordered the Queen Mother. 200 ships, including the dreadnoughts Sovereign and Dominion. Find this human vessel and destroy it. Make sure every human colony sees what happens to those who defy us. While the coalition planned their response, news of the Indomitable spread through human space like wildfire. On New Sol Station Colonial, Administrator Sangmin received encrypted reports from traders and merchants who had witnessed the confrontation. Is it true? Asked his deputy, a young woman named Yu Jin who had never seen humans stand up to the coalition before. Did we really destroy coalition ships? Not destroyed, Sang-min corrected, reading the reports carefully. Disabled. That's almost more impressive. It shows they had the power to kill but chose mercy instead. What does this mean for us? Sang-min was quiet for a long moment. He had been administrator of New Sol Station for 15 years, always following coalition rules, always keeping his people safe by keeping them quiet. But he had also kept secrets, prepared for a day that might never come. It means we have a choice to make, he said finally. We can stay safe and controlled, or we can remember what it means to be human. He activated a secure communication channel. That hadn't been used in decades. Similar channels opened on human colonies across the galaxy. For the first time in 200 years, human leadership began talking to each other without coalition oversight on Bizan Colony. Resource Controller Na Young received Sang-min's message while reviewing supply reports. She had been quietly stockpiling materials for years, telling herself it was just good planning. Now she realized it might be preparation for something much bigger. Sir, her assistant asked, what should we do about the coalition inspection team arriving next week? Na Young thought about the message she had just received. The Indomitable was real. Humans had technology the coalition feared. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Tell them we're experiencing technical difficulties with our communication array, she replied. Buy us some time? Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Jae-hyun was dealing with his own difficult choices. The ship was heading toward New Sol Station, but he knew the coalition would be preparing a massive response. Admiral, said ship's counselor Ji-woo, a calm woman in her 50s who had just been revived from cryogenic sleep. I've been reviewing reports of what happened to humanity after the war. Our people have lived in peace for 2 centuries. Many of them may not want the chaos that comes with freedom. You think I'm making a mistake? I think you're doing what you believe is right, but you should understand the weight of what you're carrying. You're asking an entire species to risk everything they've built for the possibility of something better. Admiral Jae-hyun stood at the window of his ready room looking out at the stars. Ji-woo, do you know what I dreamed about during those 200 years of sleep? No, sir. I dreamed about Earth, not the Earth I left behind, but the Earth that could have been. Humans exploring the galaxy as equals, not as pets. Human children learning about their history with pride instead of shame. Human engineers building ships. That pushed the boundaries of what was possible. He turned to face her. The coalition didn't just take our freedom. They took our future. Every generation that grows up under their control is a generation that never learns what humans can really achieve. And if we fail, if the coalition destroys us, then at least we tried. At least some humans remembered what it meant to reach for the stars. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Communications Officer Minho. Admiral, incoming transmission from New Sol Station. Administrator Sang-min wants to speak with you directly. The main screen in the ready room flickered to life, showing a middle-aged Korean man with graying hair and tired eyes. When he saw Admiral Jae-hyun, his expression changed to one of amazement. Admiral, Sang-min said, his voice shaking slightly. I read about you in history books when I was a child. I never thought I would have the honor of speaking with you. The honor is mine, Administrator. What's the situation at your station? Complicated. Half my people are excited about what you've done. The other half are terrified of coalition retaliation. I've been in contact with other colony administrators. We're all facing the same choice, which is whether to stand with you or try to distance ourselves for safety. Admiral Jae-hyun leaned forward. I won't lie to you, Administrator. If you stand with us, the coalition will make you pay. They're probably already planning to use human colonies as leverage against us, and if we don't stand with you, then nothing changes. Your children grow up the same way you did, safe but never free. Sang-min was quiet for several seconds. Admiral, there's something you should know. For years, some of us have been preparing for this day. We didn't know if it would ever come, but we prepared anyway. We have supplies, weapons, and ships hidden throughout human space. How many colonies are involved? 37 out of 43 human settlements. We call it the Restoration Network. Admiral Jahan felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries, hope mixed with overwhelming responsibility. What do you need from us? Time, Sang-min replied. The coalition will move against the colonies first. They'll try to use us as hostages to force your surrender. If you can keep their main fleet busy, we can activate our hidden defenses and protect ourselves. Understood. How long do you need? 72 hours to fully activate all sites. You'll have it? After the transmission ended, Admiral Jahan called his senior staff to the bridge. The weight of command felt heavier than ever. He wasn't just responsible for his ship and crew anymore. The future of humanity was resting on the decisions he made in the next few days. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, we're about to face the largest coalition fleet ever assembled. But we're not fighting alone. For the first time in 2 centuries, humans across the galaxy are standing together. He looked at each of his officers, seeing determination mixed with fear in their faces. Make no mistake, he continued. What we do in the coming days will determine whether humanity remains safe slaves or becomes free citizens of the galaxy. I know which future I choose. Admiral Jahan stood in the massive manufacturing bay, watching his ship build an entire fleet. Robotic arms moved with precise coordination, assembling fighter craft and small warships from raw materials. The noise was incredible, but it was the sound of hope being born. How many ships can we produce in 72 hours? He asked Chief Engineer Dong-Su. At current rate, 60 fighters and 12 frigates, Dong-Su replied, consulting his tablet. The frigates are small, only 300 meters long, but they pack the same quantum technology as the Indomitable. Each one could take on a coalition cruiser. And crew for these ships? Training Commander Seok Jin, recently revived from cryogenic sleep, stepped forward. I've been running accelerated training programs for the crew we've awakened. Modern space combat has changed, but the fundamentals remain the same. We can have skeleton crews ready for all vessels. The Admiral nodded. Creating ships was only half the battle. Finding allies was proving even more challenging. In his ready room, Ambassador Young-Sik was working on the most delicate negotiations of his career. The holographic display showed representatives from 3 different alien species, each one carefully hidden from coalition surveillance. The offer stands, Young-Sik said to the Korth general, whose scarred face filled one section of the screen. Full technology sharing in exchange for military support. General Thraknor's yellow eyes narrowed. Your human ship impressed our warriors. But the coalition has kept the Korth under strict weapon limitations for 50 years. We have only patrol boats and outdated cruisers. Then it's time you had something better, Young-Sik replied. Our manufacturing systems can produce Korth-designed vessels with human quantum technology. Imagine your warriors flying ships that can outfight anything the coalition has. The second image showed a being made entirely of glowing energy, constantly shifting between different colors. The Luminari had been enslaved by the coalition for even longer than humans, their energy-based technology suppressed and controlled. The Luminari remember freedom, the entity pulsed in colors that the translator converted to words. But we are few. Our contribution would be small. Your contribution would be crucial, Young-Sik assured them. Luminari energy manipulation, combined with human engineering, could create weapons the coalition has never seen. The third representative was more surprising. Dr. Velteran was a Delari, one of the founding species of the coalition. But unlike his government colleagues, he had grown tired of the endless control and restriction. There are others among my people who share my views, he said quietly. The coalition has become what we originally fought against. A small group of us are willing to provide intelligence and technical support. How small? Young-Sik asked. 12 scientists and 3 ship captains. Not much, but we know coalition security codes and fleet movements. After the transmission ended, Young-Sik reported to Admiral Jahan on the bridge. Sir, we have tentative agreements with all 3 groups, but they want proof that we can protect them from coalition retaliation. What kind of proof? A demonstration of power? Something that shows we're not just one lucky ship? Admiral Jahan considered this. How's Intelligence Officer Hay-1 coming with her research project? She's made some disturbing discoveries. You should hear this directly from her. Intelligence Officer Hay-1 was a woman in her early 30s with sharp eyes and a mind for details. She had spent the last 2 days analyzing captured coalition communications and databases. Admiral, she reported, I've found evidence that the coalition has been systematically suppressing technological development across all member species for the past century. Not just military technology, but civilian advances too. She activated a holographic display showing charts and graphs. Medical research that could extend lifespans by centuries has been blocked. Energy systems that could provide unlimited clean power have been classified as potentially destabilizing. Even agricultural improvements that could end hunger on a dozen worlds have been restricted. Why would they do this? Control a species that can cure all diseases, provide unlimited energy, and feed everyone doesn't need the coalition's protection. They've been keeping everyone dependent by keeping everyone limited. Admiral Jahan studied the data with growing anger. How many people have suffered because of these restrictions? Billions, sir, maybe trillions. The coalition has held back the entire galaxy's development to maintain their power. This information needs to reach every species in the coalition. Can you prepare a broadcast package? Already done, sir. I've created data packets that can be transmitted on all major communication frequencies. Once it's out there, every government in the galaxy will know what the coalition has been hiding. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Dr. Hyjin was dealing with her own challenges. Waking thousands of crew members from 2-century sleep was proving more complicated than expected. Admiral, she reported over the intercom, I need to slow down the revival process. Some crew members are having trouble adjusting to the new reality. Learning that they've slept through 200 years of human subjugation is causing psychological trauma. How serious? 3 suicide attempts, 12 cases of severe depression, and 26 requests to be put back into cryogenic sleep. I recommend mandatory counseling sessions for all revived personnel. This was a problem Admiral Jahan hadn't anticipated. His crew had gone to sleep as heroes of humanity's greatest military. They were waking up to find their species reduced to controlled colonies scattered across space. He made his way to the medical bay, where Dr. Hyjin was treating a young pilot named Kang Ho. The man sat on an examination table, staring at nothing. I was supposed to marry Subin when we got back to Earth, Kwang Ho said quietly. She promised to wait for me. But it's been 200 years. She's been dead for centuries. I know this is difficult, the Admiral said gently. But Subin and everyone else we left behind didn't sacrifice their lives for nothing. They gave us the chance to wake up in a galaxy that needs us. Needs us for what? To start another war? To finish the one we never really ended. Dr. Hyjin pulled the Admiral aside. Sir, I recommend we be selective about who we wake up. Some personalities will handle this better than others. Do what you think is best, Doctor. But remember, we're going to need every skilled person we can get. 3 days later, the Coalition Third Fleet arrived at the edge of human space. 200 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. At their head were the dreadnoughts Sovereign and Dominion, each one 5 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. Admiral Jahan of the human vessel Indomitable, came the transmission from the Coalition Fleet Commander. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Coalition Navy. You are ordered to surrender your vessel immediately. Any resistance will result in the bombardment of all human colonies. Admiral Jahan stood on his bridge, surrounded by his awakened crew. Through the viewports, he could see his small fleet of newly built ships taking positions around the massive carrier. Admiral Kethvar, he replied calmly. I am Admiral Jahan of the Earth Defense Force. Your threats against civilian populations mark you as war criminals under galactic law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. You have 60 ships against my 200. Your position. is hopeless. Numbers don't tell the whole story. Admiral Jaehyun turned to Intelligence Officer Haewon. Execute the broadcast package. Send it to every communication relay in the galaxy. Transmitted, sir. Within minutes, suppressed research data was flooding communication networks across Coalition space. Governments that had trusted Coalition guidance for centuries were learning how they had been betrayed and controlled. Now, Admiral Jaehyun said, let's show them what happens when humanity stops asking for permission. Kepler Station hung in space like a metal flower, its arms stretching out in 6 directions. It was humanity's largest military installation, home to 50,000 people and the headquarters of what remained of human naval forces. Admiral Jaehyun knew the Coalition would come here first. Station Commander Lee requesting permission to speak with you. Sir. Communications Officer Minho reported. The main screen showed a woman in her 60s wearing the uniform of the human colonial fleet. Commander Ali had been running Kepler Station for 12 years, always following Coalition rules, always keeping her people safe. Admiral Jaehyun, she said, her voice tight with stress. The Coalition Third Fleet is demanding that we deny you docking rights and surrender. Our defensive platforms? They've given us 6 hours to comply. What's your response, Commander? That depends on you, sir. Can you really protect us? They have 200 ships, including those massive dreadnoughts. My people are terrified. Admiral Jaehyun looked around his bridge. His crew was ready, but they were still vastly outnumbered. The new ships they had built were powerful but untested in real combat. Commander Lee, I won't lie to you. This will be the hardest fight humanity has faced in 2 centuries. But we have advantages the Coalition doesn't know about. What advantages? Technology they've forgotten existed and allies they don't expect. He turned to Fleet Tactical Officer Myung-ho, a brilliant strategist who had just been revived from cryogenic sleep. What's our tactical situation? Myung-ho activated the holographic battle display. Sir, if we fight them straight up, we lose. But if we use Kepler Station's asteroid field and the new quantum technology, we can level the playing field. Explain. The Coalition relies on overwhelming firepower and numbers. Their ships are designed to fight in open space where they can bring all weapons to bear. But in an asteroid field, maneuverability becomes more important than raw power. Admiral Jaehyun studied the display. How many of our new ships are ready? 60 fighters and 12 frigates, all equipped with quantum drives and plasma weapons, plus the Indomitable herself. Against 200 Coalition vessels. Yes, sir. But remember, most Coalition ships haven't seen real combat in decades. Their crews are used to policing actions and intimidation, not actual warfare. The Coalition fleet arrived exactly on schedule, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The dreadnoughts Sovereign and Dominion took position. At the center, their massive hulls bristling with weapon arrays. Kepler Station, came the transmission from Admiral Kethvar. You have 30 minutes to surrender the rogue human vessel and lower your defensive shields. Failure to comply will result in bombardment. Commander Lee looked at Admiral Jaehyun. On her screen. Admiral, my station defenses are 50 years old. They won't stop even one of those dreadnoughts. They don't need to stop them, Commander. They just need to slow them down. Admiral Jaehyun turned to his weapons officer. Kyung-soo, are all systems ready? Yes, sir. Quantum shielding at maximum, all weapon arrays charged, fighter squadrons standing by. Communications to all ships, execute battle plan Titan. The human fleet moved with precision that surprised even the Coalition commanders. The Indomitable positioned herself between the station and the enemy fleet, her massive bulk protecting the smaller human vessels. The new frigates spread out among the asteroids, using the rocky cover to mask their positions. Sir, reported. Squadron Leader Yun-soo, all fighter squadrons ready for launch. Korath and Luminari allies are in position on the flanks. Admiral Jaehyun smiled. The Coalition thought they were fighting one human ship. They were about to learn otherwise. Admiral Kethvar, he transmitted to the Coalition fleet, you are violating the territorial sovereignty of Kepler Station. withdraw immediately or face the consequences. You are outnumbered 4-1, human. Surrender now and your crew will be treated fairly. I've heard coalition promises before. They're not worth much. The coalition fleet opened fire first. Hundreds of energy beams lanced out toward the Indomitable, but they struck the quantum shielding and simply vanished. The massive human carrier didn't even shake from the impact. "Return fire," Admiral J. Hyon ordered. "Show them what real weapons look like." The Indomitable's main gun spoke for the first time in 2 centuries. 8 beams of pure white energy shot out, each one striking a different coalition cruiser. The enemy ships didn't explode. Instead, their hulls simply melted away, leaving twisted metal and dead crew behind. "Launch all fighters," the Admiral continued. Fighter bays along the carrier's sides opened like flowers blooming. 60 advanced human fighters streamed out, followed by Korath attack ships and Luminari energy constructs. The mixed squadron moved through space like a school of deadly fish. The coalition had launched their own fighters, but the difference in technology was immediately obvious. Human fighters twisted through impossible maneuvers, their quantum drives, allowing them to change direction instantly. Coalition pilots, trained on older technology, couldn't keep up. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Myung-ho, "enemy Dreadnought Sovereign is moving to attack the station directly. Frigates Daegu and Incheon intercept course. Show them what our new ships can do." 2 of the newly built human frigates broke from asteroid cover, accelerating toward the massive coalition dreadnought. They were tiny compared to the 5-kilometer giant, but they moved with deadly purpose. The Sovereign opened fire with everything it had. Energy beams and missile salvos filled space around the 2 frigates, but the human ships danced through the attack, their quantum shielding absorbing what couldn't be avoided. "Frigate Daegu to Fleet Command," came the voice of Captain Beijin. "Beginning attack run on enemy dreadnought." The 2 frigates split apart, approaching the Sovereign from different angles. Their plasma cannons fired in sequence, cutting through the dreadnought's shields like paper. Sections of the massive ship's hull began to glow red-hot, then white-hot, then simply vaporized. "Impossible," Admiral Kethvar's voice came over the open channel. "How are you doing this?" "Technology you made us forget," Admiral J. Hyon replied. "But we remembered." The battle raged for 3 hours. Coalition ships fell one by one to superior human technology and tactics. But the turning point came when Dr. Hyjin executed her special mission. "Admiral," she reported from the medical bay, "I'm ready to broadcast the evidence packages." "Do it." Across the Coalition fleet, human medical data began appearing on every ship's communication system. The information showed decades of Coalition war crimes, suppressed technologies, and deliberate policies designed to keep member species weak and dependent. On the Coalition command ship, Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his own crew began questioning their orders. Similar scenes played out across the fleet as alien crews learned how their governments had been controlled and manipulated. "Sir," reported one of Kethvar's officers, a young Dalari named Velquan, "this data, if it's accurate, the Coalition has been lying to us for generations." "It's enemy propaganda," Kethvar insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Velquan activated his console. "I'm reading similar transmissions from our homeworlds. The data is spreading throughout Coalition space. Governments are demanding explanations." 3 Coalition ships stopped firing and withdrew from the battle, then 6 more. Within an hour, half the Coalition fleet had either surrendered or simply left the battlefield. Admiral Kethvar found himself commanding a broken force, his authority crumbling as the truth spread through his ranks. "This isn't over, human," he transmitted on an open channel. "Yes, it is," Admiral J. Hyon replied quietly. "The Coalition as you knew it died today. The question now is what comes next." The remaining Coalition ships limped away from Kepler Station, leaving behind dozens of wrecked vessels and thousands of questions that would reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly Hall had been built for the Coalition Council, but today it served a very different purpose. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the circular chamber, many of them meeting as equals for the first time in centuries. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to handle dozens of different languages. Admiral Jahan stood at the center podium, still wearing his Earth Defense Force uniform. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler Station, and the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The coalition government had collapsed within weeks as member species demanded answers about the suppressed technologies and hidden crimes. "Friends," he began, his voice carried to every corner of the hall, "we gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking a better future." In the front row, Captain Taewoo sat with the other human representatives. He still couldn't believe how much his life had changed since finding that derelict ship in the asteroid field. Next to him sat So Young, now serving as humanity's chief technology advisor to the new assembly. "The old coalition promised peace through control," Admiral Jae-hyun continued. "But true peace can only come through cooperation and mutual respect. That is why we propose the Galactic Assembly, where every species has an equal voice regardless of their military power or economic strength." The Korath representative, General Thraknor, stood up. His warriors had fought alongside human forces in 3 battles since Kepler Station, and mutual respect had grown between the species. "The Korath pledge our support to this assembly. We have seen what humans can achieve when they are free. We want the same freedom for our people." The luminary entity pulsed with colors that translated to agreement. "The luminari have waited 2 centuries for this day. We offer our energy manipulation technology to all species who wish to learn." Not everyone was enthusiastic about the changes. Dr. Velteren, the Delari scientist who had secretly helped the humans, stood to address concerns from his own people. "Many Delari fear that human technology will make us obsolete. They worry about becoming second-class citizens in a human-dominated galaxy." Admiral Jae-hyun nodded respectfully. "Doctor, those are valid concerns. But dominance was never our goal. If it had been, we would have conquered rather than liberated. We propose something different: shared knowledge, mutual protection, and cooperative exploration." He activated a holographic display showing star maps of unexplored regions beyond the galaxy's rim. There are entire sections of space that no one has ever visited. Worlds that might hold answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. Instead of fighting over what we already know, why not work together to discover what we don't? The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted guarantees that human technology wouldn't be used against them. Others demanded compensation for decades of coalition oppression. A few insisted on maintaining separate territories with minimal contact. Through it all, Admiral Jae-hyun listened patiently. This was the hardest part of his new role. Fighting the coalition had been simple compared to building something to replace it. During a break in the proceedings, he walked to the observation deck where engineer Dong-soo was monitoring the Indomitable. The massive ship hung in orbit above the assembly station, no longer a weapon of war but a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. "How are the technology transfers progressing?" the admiral asked. "Better than expected," Dong-soo replied, consulting his tablet. "The Korath have adapted quantum shielding to their ship designs. The Luminari are teaching us energy manipulation techniques we never imagined. Even some Delari colonies are requesting human manufacturing equipment. Any problems?" "A few. Some species are trying to copy our technology without understanding the principles behind it. That could be dangerous. And there are still coalition holdouts in the outer systems causing trouble." Admiral Jae-hyun nodded. The transition wasn't going to be easy or quick, but it was happening. Back in the assembly hall, the representatives had reached a tentative agreement. The new Galactic Assembly would be based on principles of voluntary cooperation rather than forced compliance. No species would be required to join, but those who did would have equal voting rights and access to shared technologies. "What about enforcement?" asked the Vextai representative, one of the few remaining from the old coalition leadership. "If a species breaks assembly laws, who will stop them?" "We will," Admiral Jae-hyun replied simply, "but not as conquerors. The Assembly Defense Force will be made up of volunteers from all member species. using the best technology each species can contribute. Its mission will be protection, not control. Over the following weeks, the details were worked out. The new assembly would have its headquarters on neutral ground, rotating leadership among member species, and strict limits on military buildup. Most importantly, all research and technological development would be shared freely among members. Captain Tae-woo found himself assigned as one of the first assembly explorers, commanding a mixed crew aboard a new ship called the Harmony. It was smaller than the Indomitable but incorporated technology from 6 different species. Strange how things work out, So Young commented as they prepared for their first deep space mission. A few months ago, we were just salvage workers. Now we're exploring unknown space for the galactic government. Not government, Tae-woo corrected. Assembly, that distinction matters. Their first destination was a star system beyond the galactic rim where long-range sensors had detected unusual energy signatures. The crew included humans, Kareth, Luminari, and even 2 former Coalition officers who had defected during the war. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Tae-woo received a final transmission from Admiral Jae Hyun aboard the Indomitable. "Captain," the Admiral said, "you're about to see parts of the universe that no one has ever explored. Remember that you carry the hopes of dozens of species with you. Make discoveries that benefit everyone, not just humanity. Understood, Admiral." "Any specific orders?" "Yes, have fun out there." For 200 years, humanity forgot what it felt like to push boundaries and explore the unknown. Don't let us forget again. The Harmony jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its diverse crew toward the edge of known space. Behind them, the galaxy was transforming as old barriers fell and new partnerships formed. On Earth, which had been closed to outsiders for 2 centuries, the first alien visitors in generations were arriving. Korth historians wanted to study human military tactics. Luminari scientists were fascinated by human art and music. Even some reformed Delari were coming to share their knowledge of deep space. Agriculture. Admiral Jae Hyun watched these developments from his ready room aboard the Indomitable. The great ship was heading toward the galactic rim as well, leading a joint exploration fleet that would have been impossible under the old coalition. "Admiral," ship's counselor Ji-woo said as she entered. With his daily reports, the psychological evaluation teams have finished their assessment of the crew. "How are they adjusting?" "Better than expected. Most crew members have found purpose in our new mission. They understand that they're not just soldiers anymore, but pioneers building a better galaxy." "Any regrets about our choices?" Ji-woo smiled. "None from the crew? But I think you should ask yourself that question." Admiral Jae Hyun considered this. 3 months ago, he had awakened to find his species enslaved and his dreams of human freedom seemingly impossible. Now humanity was leading a galactic renaissance of exploration and cooperation. "No regrets," he said finally. "We set out to give humanity back its freedom. Instead, we gave freedom to everyone." Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines as the Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed, leading its diverse fleet toward discoveries that would reshape understanding of the universe itself. The age of the Coalition was over. The age of exploration had begun.